Should housing be treated as an investment vehicle in Australia? We're going to be reacting to a recent video released by the SBS with a panel of finfluencers. And so let's unpack whether we think property investment should remain in Australia. And if not, what is the solution to fix the housing problem in this market? On screen, we have this latest release. Let's see who's in this video giving us
government take over all the properties. Like I'm very confused.
Capitalism is the most common economic system in the world, but the divide between rich and poor in Australia is still growing. Is Australia's current version of capitalism still working, or has it outlived its purpose? Today, our panel is going to debate a range of statements based on...
So we've got Eddie Deline, who's a property investor and buyer's agent. Very much like myself, I run a buyer's agency. I'm also a property investor. So as far as, similar interests, I definitely fall into that bucket. Kyan, who's an economist, Simran, who's a business owner, Queenie, she does TikToks and she's a finfluencer, Jack Tui, who is content creation, and then Jordan Van der Lam, who's a member of the Victorian Socialists. So we're going to skip ahead today and we're going to kick off with the facts around housing.
Housing shouldn't be treated as an investment. Eddie, can we start with you?
The environment that I grew up in poverty and housing commission, in arguably one of Sydney's worst suburbs, a lot of people didn't have jobs. You can't qualify for a loan when you are on Centrelink. I'm probably arguably the only one here that actually grew up.
People on some Centrelink payments can apply for a home loan, but may be limited by loan type and lender. A successful application will depend on whether lender thinks they can afford repayments. Honestly, most people aren't going to be able to afford repayments on Centrelink because you're on very much minimum wage and minimum income. It's interesting that that almost feels predatory that you could get a loan while getting government payments. I don't know if that's even reasonable, but let's hear what they have to say.
In housing commission, it was actually over a 12-year wait to get a house in public housing. So prior to that, where would we have lived if property investors did not then rent properties out to us? If you did change the rules to eliminate property investors, you'd have millions of people homeless. Personally owning over 180 properties, I personally would encourage people to take accountability for their own and learn on how they can get ahead. And while housing should be available for everybody, yes, but it's not meant to be easy.
I personally don't think that there's something wrong with investing in properties. Like I personally do have an investment property, but I do feel like it starts to become an issue, especially when we do have really, really expensive housing prices. I mean, Sydney's now like the second most unaffordable housing market in the world, just after Hong Kong. It's interesting because Singapore, I feel like, is one of those places that should be in the top 10, yet the government has put in measures to make sure that housing is affordable. So for example, about 80% of the population of Singapore, they actually live in government housing, but it's not government housing like we know it here. People are able to buy into it and they have a 99-year lease and they're able to sell it. And they also do have extra taxes on people who do invest in more than one property, which we don't really have anything like that here.
Jordan, can I get your perspective on investment?
Before we go through that, I mean, the wealth divide, the value of Sydney property is not because the building is worth much more. If you build with a spec builder for $400,000, you can get a 4-bedroom home. The reason Sydney is so expensive is the land value. We've got this wealth divide where the rich are getting richer because of the compounding effects of wealth creation. And so what that means is if I'm earning $100 million and I can get a compounding return of 10% on that, I earn an extra $10 million on my 100 million. Whereas the poor teacher who's earning 100 grand and then has school fees for kids, 44% of their income going to rent or a mortgage. Then you've got cost of living with fuel and food, the list goes on. You might only save $10,000 to $20,000 of your $100,000 once you've taken out taxes as well. And so we're seeing a wealth divide where the rich have so much money that they can then fuel it back into asset prices in locations they want to buy, i.e. invest or live in. And that's why your Sydneys, your Brisbanes, your Melbournes are getting so expensive, is that they have so much capital or so much money available to sink back into what they really want most, which is valuing the location, valuing the assets themselves. It's really interesting.
Investing in property?
Yeah, I reckon investing in property is morally reprehensible. I don't think anyone should be profiting off something that someone else needs to survive. And I think if we're trying to compare situations, like imagine if there was a famine and people on the street were dying from starvation and you had 150 warehouses full of food and you were just hoarding that to make a little bit more money. I think you would understand probably if people on the street suffering from starvation or homelessness turned on you.
Do you think people will turn?
Gee, that's a very dire perspective to have, that the value of housing is held by the richest And everyone deserves a roof over their head. Let me be clear that we don't want to see people in homeless scenarios. We don't want to see people on the streets at all. And we want everyday Aussies to be able to break in and afford a home. But with the wealth divide, we're following areas like Canada and the UK and the US, where they're major cities, your Torontos, Vancouver's, Seattle's in the US, New York, London, the list goes on. Where the big cities in Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, your major cities are so unaffordable for the locals there that everyone rents. That if you want to afford in those major cities, you need generational wealth, or you need a massive exit out of your startup venture to afford in those locations to buy your own place. But what I don't agree with is that investors don't play a good role. Like investors, in my case, using myself personally as an example, I've renovated over 10 properties, and a lot of these properties would have been in pretty poor circumstances. And so I'd taken on risk with a lot of those projects. And if you're going to take on risk, you need a reward financially for you to be incentivized to do that. So it's definitely this is a very hot topic to talk about housing as an investment as a whole.
And on property investors?
Yeah. Housing is doubling every 10 years. You can't keep doing that. It's exponential growth. So it's exponential growth for you to...
Home price growth varies across regions. In June 2015, Australia's median dwelling price was $604,000. By December 2025, it's $1,074,000. So not doubled in the last 10 years, but getting close to doubling.
Continue buying properties while the rest of us are exponentially getting further and further away from being able to buy our first home. I'm assuming your 150 properties, like you have every one of those was a brand new dwelling or a brand new office. You bought existing properties that someone else could have owned their first one. So it's not fair. I don't think this idea that we have three classes, we have renters, we have owner occupiers, and we have landlords or property investors.
What about the Centrelink people that can't afford a property? Like where do they live?
But the only reason that property is expensive is because people speculate on property. We could just say today, like somehow we could just wipe all the value of housing off. The houses would still be there. The house would be worth $1 each, and those people could walk into a house tomorrow. It's artificial value.
I never let housing be $1 each. That inflation just keeps blowing up.
You won't let it.
So the problem with that argument is that there's a divide in terms of location and quality of housing. So if we say that all housing, we're removing landlords completely, we wipe them from the board, you can only have owner occupiers, there's still going to be a value metric placed on properties. And then there's a lot of people who don't have the deposits if we're using debt. And it's this fiscal system that we live in. It's the money printing that the government is the reason the house prices are going up. And so if we decided that, hey, everyone, we don't allow landlords, fight for the houses that are available now as an owner-occupier, there's still going to be economic value tied to those houses. So who decides to get a beachfront on the Gold Coast versus, Alice Springs in the centre of Australia? Because we've got plenty of land here in Australia. It's just that we don't have the roads or the buildings or the sewerage and the infrastructure to release a property. If you look at a house in Southeast Queensland, for example, you can build a house for $300,000. The hard part is bringing it to market. There's about 40% of taxes on a property coming to market, and the value of the land in that component is about $500K. So if the government was to subsidize land and basically cover those costs of the $500,000 and then let the spec builders release the houses at $300,000, you would be able to reduce the cost of bringing houses to market significantly.
I'm happy for it.
There's millions of properties out there.
Inflation, exactly. There's millions of properties out there. So the people that live on Centrelink could buy a house that was affordable.
You get a loan if you're on Centrelink.
Again, this is the housing market
I grew up on Centrelink.
The housing market where we exist in doesn't allow you to get a loan.
That's the banking system. Because the banking system doesn't allow.
And the two main architects of the housing crisis are property investors and the banks. The banks are the evil that sits above, but like they're the ones that make the most profit. And why would they invest in business when they can just loan you the money for a house that they know is going to double in 10 years? And if you default on that loan, then they can sell the house in an endlessly inflating market. The only reason why people are investing in property is because we've culturally agreed that that's the way that we build our wealth. But we've just made that up. There's the cost of building, the bricks and mortar, the cost of the labor, and the cost of the products. That's the cost of a house. But most of it is just...
And the cost of the land. So to get it through your local council, to get the property through your local council, through your state government, you got your stamp duty taxes as well. And then to get your civil, you've got your engineers reports. It's not just the cost of constructing a house, it's the cost of getting the land to construct the house on with the town planning that's in place. I'm trying to do 4 developments. I'm trying to add myself 4 houses to Australia's property market at the moment. And it is honestly a major amount of risk and a major headache to do privately. But it can be worth it if you can execute on these transactions. And that's why I'm a property investor. I'm not in the tech space or in the financial space, because if I'm willing to do the work and manage a bunch of trades, builders, town planners, engineers, council, manage all of these parties and get it all together to execute on a build, then I should be able to make a profit of several $100,000 on each project. So it's really interesting to hear these different points of view around whether housing should be investment product at all.
Made up value. We've just decided that houses in Sydney cost $5 million for a brick shit house. I don't blame you for getting into property because that is just the cultural obsession that we exist within. I think your money would be doing a lot better in other areas of the economy, and you would actually be better off, and the rest of us would be better off because there'd be more houses available for owner occupiers, creating a downward pressure on house prices to make sure that people on Centrelink could also afford a house eventually.
I don't know the in-depth details about the different policies because I believe that a person's individual circumstances, that they should take that upon themselves to learn that, like, you shouldn't hate the player or the game. Like, you should just learn the game and then learn how to win it.
But that's why we call like the housing market a Ponzi scheme, because you rely on more people wanting to invest in property for your property to inflate in value to make your capital gain from that property to buy more property. So what you're saying is we have to all play a game that is unfair, and so that's the problem, and that policy can be changed from a government level. Anyway, I'll shut up.
When people say like, don't hate the player, hate the game, I do understand where you're coming from. And I think for clarification, I also own a plot of land. I've got 2 houses on them and I rent them out. I don't think property in itself is a bad thing. Also, property is naturally an investment because it becomes an asset class. It's the same as like, you know, a picture frame is just a picture frame, but if there's art in it and lots of people want that art, it suddenly goes up in value. And saying that
You don't need the frame or the picture to survive, I guess.
that's true. That's true.
It's like supply and demand though, and they don't make any more land, so it's going to go up no matter what.
I do agree with what you're saying, and my perspective is Australia is so unique. We love our property. We see property as a safety net, and we've kind of overindulged into that. And that's worked for our parents' generation and our grandparents' generation, but doesn't work for us. And I remember what it was like being a first home buyer. It's so, you go home, you kind of cry every day. And saying that, I think people need to move their investments out of property and move them into other asset classes like shares, like startups. I invest in venture.
The problem with the shares argument is that the bulk of Australia's stock market is based on builders and banks. Banks are your biggest stockholders in the stock market. So your superannuation goes into CBA, ANZ, NAB, Westpac, which then fund the property market for owner-occupiers and investors, which then means more capital sinks into the housing market, which is why this is a giant Ponzi scheme. So I think we can all agree that property has and will continue to be a Ponzi scheme unless anything changes. The big takeaway for me is that we're unlikely to lynch, this is what some of the guys are talking about here. They want to remove landlords completely and think that they're horrible. There's always been owners of land because they look after the land, they renovate houses, they bring houses that are dilapidated back to market. That's incentive to buy and renovate a property as an investor, or do a development, create land and bring it to market and make a profit for all the work and knowledge and time involved to do that. If the government, I think my biggest takeaway from all of this is the government wants to solve a housing crisis, they need to go back to bare bone basics of the 1980s and 1990s and have a sovereign housing fund where they develop land in locations outside the major cities. So west of Sydney, where there's even more land inland. In Brisbane, it'd be around the Toowoomba region. You could go to Newcastle as well, inland from these locations, or along the coastline on the northern New South Wales coast. I think if the government brought back a large volume social housing, because we know the government can build houses for 300 grand with spec builders, and the builders make 5 to 7% profit on that spec price. If the government can then take over the development of the land itself, so instead of it costing 500 grand, ideally the government's able to, even if the government's able to subsidize it and release the land at much cheaper rates to first home buyers, I think that would then decrease the pressure on prices. But what you can't take away is the major cities like Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane having scarce locations, or Gold Coast beachfront property being in a scarce location, and people wanting to sink capital into controlling and owning those assets because they're rare, they're sought after. So I think we can solve the housing crisis in Australia. We've got plenty of land. It's the cost of land as far as the balance of house and land that really costs a lot of money. And I don't think you can go straight to a socialist point of view where, you know, fight for the houses that are now available to only owner-occupiers, because people will still value the scarce properties in the Gold Coast, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and so on. I think if the government brought back in large-scale housing development as a government-backed project, they removed those first-home buyer incentives, which pumped the market six to 8 months ago. And I'm someone that has made a lot of money out of property investment. I've renovated 10 properties myself. I'm doing 4 projects where I'm trying to add housing stock to the market, but I'm trying to do it for profit, because there's so much work and knowledge and time and capital involved to do these things. So I think we'll stop it there because, you know, this video goes on for a long time, but I'd love to hear thoughts on should we abolish property investment as a whole? And what would you do to fix it? Because I think it's about taxing and the government intervention on both the demand and supply sides of the equations, potentially reducing some headcount coming into Australia while increasing the supply and incentivizing people towards the first-time buyer space. Let me know in your thoughts in the comments below. If you're looking for another video on real estate, renovating, and financial freedom, click this video right here. See you on the next one. Peace.